All right, so Sculpture Kids, we are going to start a new unit called Nature Art, which is using objects found outside to create a sculpture. This presentation is two parts, so we'll be going through the first part right now. Our first artist is Andy Goldsworthy. He's a British sculptor, photographer, and environmentalist who produces site-specific sculptures and land art situated in natural and urban settings. He lives and works in Scotland. And I'm going to ask you at the end of this presentation to go through and actually click on the videos and watch them on your own. Please keep in mind that Goldsworthy's work is created with a lot of trial and error, and it takes a long time and a lot of patience in order to create it. He allows nature to be the deciding factor of what he is creating and works with the materials and with gravity. Some of his work is more two-dimensional, so you can look down onto the ground and you can look over it, or it's more three-dimensional, which means the viewer can move around it. Or it's actually interactive, which means that the work interacts with its environment. What you're seeing on the left-hand side is more of the 3D view when you can move around the tree stump, and he put leaves around the tree stump to create that type of like radiation color. The 2D example is the one to the right where you're looking down onto leaves, and he put the leaves in a circle from light to dark. Tony Cragg is another artist that we're going to talk about. His early work involved site-specific installations of found objects and discarded materials. So things that you would find in nature, but then also in trash or in urban settings, things like that. From the mid-1970s through the early 1980s, he presented ensemblages in primary structures, as in his first mature piece in the 1975 called Stack, which you will see in the video that is going to be on the next slide, as well as in colorful representational reliefs on the floor and walls of gallery spaces. Cragg constructed these early works by symmetrically arranging individual fragments of mixed media, often according to their artificial colors and profiles, so as to form larger images. So what that's pretty much saying is that he was taking mixed media, all these different materials, and he's putting them in order based on color or based on size, which is similar to what Goldsworthy was doing to the actually both the tree stump and the circle on the right hand side, is that he was taking these objects and putting them in order based on color to create a work of art. So why am I showing you the video of Tony Cragg? It's because it has him talking about sculpture that is important to be heard. Listening to how he talks about his work, why he finds it important. I hope that maybe how he believes sculpture is so important will help inspire you for this next project. This video also shows how exhibitions are created, how they're coordinated and put together. A lot goes into putting a work of art on exhibit, whether it's two-dimensional on a wall or three-dimensional in a sculpture yard. And so it's nice to see all those moving parts kind of coming together. So I'm going to ask you guys to watch this video. It is 24 minutes long, so if you need to pause it, take a break, and come back to it, that's fine. But you do need to watch this video before answering the Google form, which is on the next slide, which is right here. So you'll answer the Google slide, this Google form right here. It's 10 questions. It does pertain to the video. So if you wanted to open up this form while watching the video, you can do that as well. So after watching the video, things to think about is, had you considered the difference between sculpture being on display inside versus being outside in nature? How is it looked at differently? How is it interacted differently? Is it something you had thought about or not? Or now that you've watched the video, maybe it's become a little bit more obvious to you why artists are choosing to show work outside versus inside. If you were to create a natural sculpture, would you rather it be inside or outside? It's just something to think about based on maybe what you saw in the Tony Cragg video. And after watching a Tony Cragg video, do you want to go to a sculpture yard? Do you find it interesting and intriguing to maybe go to a sculpture yard or a museum that has acres upon acres of land with various sculptures throughout? So I came up with a few ideas or suggestions of places close by that you can actually go to. They're considered sculpture museums and art centers. The picture shown here is actually another one of the Andy Goldsworthy's installations. So the closest museum that we have is the Lyman Allyn Museum. It's in New London. It is free to all people who live in New London. It's free admission the first Saturday of each month, and it's also free on your birthday. It has 12 acres and it has over 20 sculptures. It is $5 admission for students. If you do not live in New London, if you don't go to the Saturday of each month, or if it's not your birthday. Another option is the deCordova Sculpture Park and Museum. It's in Lincoln, Mass. And they actually do have Andy Goldsworthy's watershed on site, which is pretty cool. It's a really beautiful sculpture park and museum. So if you're interested, that's in Lincoln. Another one is Art Omi. It's in Ghent, New York. Yes, you'll notice that that's me, a little sculpture. Well, not very little, it's pretty big. But I was able to go there and visit it. It's beautiful. My husband went with me as well, and he enjoyed it, even though he is definitely not an artist. So you don't have to be a sculpturist or an artist in order to appreciate going and kind of checking it out. If it's on a beautiful day, it's definitely worth a visit. And the last place, which is definitely on my list of places to go, is Storm King Art Center, which is in New Windsor, New York. It's in the Catskills? No. It's in the, what? Oh yeah, the Hudson Valley region. So you'll see a familiar name on the left-hand side, Alexander Calder, my man. It's called Five Swords. And just take a look at how beautiful that sculpture is amongst the landscape. I think it's really awesome. And if you can imagine, you can kind of see some of the trees changing color in this picture. Just imagine, I mean, you're in upstate New York. If all those trees are changed for fall time, how beautiful that sculpture can be in the landscape. Another sculpture that they have on site is Andy Goldsworthy's Storm King wall. So he actually made it specifically for Storm King Art Center. So that's another thing to kind of look at if you choose to go there. So part 2 would be scheduled for day 2 of our continuity learning. So make sure to, before going on to part 2, you finish watching both videos. Please make sure to fill out the Google form on Tony Cragg, and then you can move on to part 2. All right, thank you.